Alright, good afternoon, Nigeria. Welcome back to the Heckles of Fear. I'm your host, untold, aka Tommyrex, and today's topic is view, raw, and urgent. Why do war we watch on screens leave us sleepless, even when we live with violence right outside our doors? We are unpacking how politics, conflict, and the media shapes our fear, from measles over Iran to massacre in Benue. And joining me in someone with mind and the heart of the moment, Dr. Lekan Oketoku, a chief lecturer and a political analyst at MAPOLY. Welcome, sir.
Thank you very much.
So let's start with the Iran and Israel conflict, Operation Rising Lion and Operation Midnight Hammer, over 1,000 lives lost, missiles and hospital hits. Now, I want to ask Dr. Lekan Oketoku, even though this war happened far away, people here in Nigeria, students and children, families, they felt afraid. So why do you think distant wars cause fear among Nigerians, sir?
Well, thank you very much. When you talk about war is something that wherever it happens, it affects virtually everybody globally. And when I say it affects everybody globally, one of the things that is very profound about war is that you know that if a war happens somewhere, it affects the economy of that place. It affects the social, politics, reality of that place.
Yeah, of course.
It also affects people, especially. There are lives that are lost. And when these bombs are flying, missiles are flying, it doesn't discriminate against nationals. So if you have people there,
but they fall in on the locals.
Yes, everybody is involved. Apart from that, it creates a lot of displacement for people in terms of schooling, in terms of livelihood and all that. So it creates fear, and much more importantly, lives are lost. And when lives are lost, you never know who is involved. There have been wars that are fought very far away, but Nigerians are there. And when Nigerians are there, it means that we are part of it. It's a global village now. People move anytime. And when that happens, when war happens, there is no way it will not affect. Nigerians are heavily mobile people.
Yeah, exactly.
We travel out of it, and especially within Japa syndrome. Nigerians are everywhere.
Yes, sir.
So if there are wars in any part of the world, you can be sure that some Nigerians will be involved, and that creates anxiety at home.
Awesome. But building on that, sir, how do Iran and Israel tensions psychologically impact ordinary people? Like, for example, now, we believe that I watched a video recently whereby the Russians had a meeting, I think a kind of a conference meeting with some other party states, and they're talking like they're analyzing the war and looking at how to retaliate about the war and all like that. Now, so ordinary people that does not involve in politics and the so-called superpowers. So how does the Iran and Israel tension psychologically impact the ordinary people, sir? And does this tap into the deeper vulnerability of ordinary people?
Well, it impacts on the psychology of people, in the sense that mere seeing the images on television, the bombings, the lives that are lost, is enough to create some psychological impact on people. It's not only when you are there physically, but seeing the images on television, and don't forget that these things are shown on television, on YouTube and whatever. So once you see those images of people being bombed, houses being turned into ruins, and children dying, women crying, it impacts on people's psychological build-up, and that's a lot. That creates some emotional, mental torture to many people who see those images on television.
No, that was a beautiful one, sir. So now, I want us to come up now. I believe you are aware of the Benue massacre. recently about from June 12 to June 14. Over 150 people were killed in Yaleweta, Guma, and Agatu. Mass graves, burnt homes, and yet little noise from mainstream media. So, Doctor, I would like to ask you a question. So now, what mechanism makes global and local violence feel equally threatening? That is, or sometimes it makes us more reactive to faraway war than local killings. Like for example now, the Israel and Iran war. Now we've been talking about the local war now, the Benue massacre now. So what mechanism makes a global and local violence feel equally threatening?
Well, the thing with local wars, as you call it, or conflict, is that in a place like Nigeria, where you have killings on a daily basis, attention is scanty about what exactly to be done on those wars. Many people focus on the global wars, the international ones, to the detriment of the local one, because I don't know, it's a kind of misplaced priority. Really. We should focus more on our local conflicts. The media should bring their searchlight more on the local conflict. And let me also say that it's not that they are not bringing searchlight on it, but those in government feel unconcerned. You discover that when there is a war anywhere, our leaders, for example, will send condolence messages.
Is that enough?
To those areas, but in Nigeria you hardly hear of condolence messages, and even when they send condolence messages, you hardly see them visiting and empathizing with the people concerned, and that is very bad. Local lives, international life is life, and human beings are equal everywhere. So we should not place premium on international wars at the detriment of local conflicts, which we have in abundance in Nigeria. So the whole point is that our leaders must now begin to do more for us in Nigeria in tackling local conflicts than they do sympathizing with faraway conflicts and things like that.
Alright, I'm still on the Echoes of Fear 99.7 FM, MAPOLY Radio. The number to call us is 090 24 39 0556. Let's go on a short break and we'll be right back. Host Tommyrex, aka Tommyrex, and with me, my amazing and very, very gallant and amiable lecturer in MAPOLY, Dr. Nico Oketokun. Thank you for finding time to join us today on Echoes of Fear. So I'm gonna do an analysis of the war. Before that, I would like to call the studio line again. The studio line is 080-8940-0151. Once again, the studio line is 080-8940-0151. That's the number you can call in. So alright, about what really happened at Israel and Iran war and the escalation that shook the world. So Israel is a Middle Eastern nation with strong US ties, predominantly Jewish, while Iran is a Shia majority Islamic republic, long-time rival of Israel. USA is a key ally of Israel and a strategic global player, which Hamas and Hezbollah, a militant backed by Iran. So Syria, Lebanon, and Iraq, they are indirectly involved due to regional instability. Then what happened? There was a military escalation where Israel and Iran engaged in direct strike on each other for the first time in decades. It marked a dangerous shift from proxy war, fighting via groups like Hamas or Hezbollah, to a nation-on-nation attack. So when did it happen? Escalation peaked on early to mid-2024 after October 2023. Hamas attacked Israel around Gaza war. Israel retaliated in Gaza and hit Iranian-backed targets. Iran launched drones and missiles at Israel. Israel struck back inside Iranian territory. Where did it happen? The conflict was centered in Gaza Strip, Hamas-Israel clashes, while Iranian military facilities, Syria and Lebanon, where Iranian proxy operates, and Israel northern borders. And why did it happen? Iran supports anti-Israel groups, Hamas and Hezbollah, while Israel sees Iran nuclear ambition and regional influence as a threat. So now, the Hamas attack on Israel gave Iran a moment to show support. Israel wanted to show it would strike Iran directly if provoked. Then, now look at how the story unfolds. Now, Iran now launched over 300 missiles and drones. Israel used its Iron Dome and US supplied air defense system to intercept. Israel then launched precision airstrike on Iranian radar base and military compound. Now, the American interference. What did the US do? Defensive support for Israel. That is, the US deployed Navy warship and jet to help intercept Iranian missiles. They intercepted more than 70 projectiles aimed at Israel territory. Secondly, diplomatic backing. Israel President Donald Trump reaffirmed American ironclad support for Israel defense. At the same time, the US urged restraint to avoid full-scale war. Then, preventing the world war, US made a back-channel effort with Qatar, Turkey and Oman to cool the crisis, pressured Iran not to respond further, urged Israel not to retaliate excessively. Then the troop movement. America moved more troops and aircraft to the region in case of escalation, created fear of direct US-Iran war. Well, while we are talking about the breakdown of the war, I believe those people that don't really know much about the war or probably don't have access to social media or insight about the war, I've been able to break down what actually transpired in the war. And basically, I want to look at the Russia perception about the war, sir. And I would like our speaker to also give us a perspective about the Russia, if you can actually give us some notions, sir, about the Russia perspective, about the US and Russia interference in the war, sir.
Well, thank you very much. When you talk about the Iran-Israel conflict,
yes, sir,
it's a dynamic that has always been there, right from the birth of Israel.
Wow.
In 1947 or thereabout, I think. Now, there has been no love lost between Israel and her neighbors.
Yeah.
Generally. And the US, as you have rightly alluded, has always been a strong ally.
Yes,
of
to Israel, yeah.
Seeing Israel as a baby to protect and defend at all times. And again, don't forget that Israel and the United States and the Western countries in general are afraid of Iran having nuclear capability. They are against it, and a series of talks have taken place over that. Unfortunately, at one point in time, the United States of America pulled out of the Iran nuclear talks under this President Donald Trump. But I think with the present scenario, they are trying to get back to the table.
But there was a time, Iran was silent. There was a time Russia was silent as regards US interference in Iran's bombing.
Well, the thing is that when it comes to Russia, Russia and the United States, they have never agreed on any point when it comes to the dynamics in the Middle East.
As the major superpowers.
While America will always back Israel, you see the Russians on the other side. However, this time around, the Russians were very cautious in backing Iran. Even when Iran supported the fight, the Russian fight in Ukraine, and has supplied Ukraine with, has supplied Russia with drones and all manner of missiles to attack Ukraine. When it came to the the Israeli Iran fight conflict, Russia declined to supply Iran with some of the drones and missiles that it needed to confront Israel. And that's very strategic because right now they are fighting a war, and that war has taken its toll on the resources of Russia, both militarily and financially. So they do not have the luxury of trying to lend out some of their missiles and drones because they are already committed to a war of attrition, a war that has grinded for more than 2 years now with Ukraine. So that's why Russia is being very cautious in supporting the Iranians. Not only that, at this point in time, Russia may not want to incur the needless wrath of the United States of America by supporting Iran, because Iran is known to be supporting some groups in the Middle East that have been pointed at, that have been fingered at destabilizing that region. You talk about Hamas, you talk about Hezbollah, and those groups in the Middle East. So it's something that Russia has been very careful in joining.
All right. Now, before we went on the break, we talked about the Benue massacre now. So I want to give more in depth, because now it's like as if we are more triggered by the news in the foreign lands than our own propaganda is doing us. Because today we hear kidnapping, we hear different kind of threats to government and lives and properties. So now I talked about from June 12 to June 14, Benin, Soero, Yeleweta and Guma village burned, over 150 dead, families wiped out, women and children slaughtered in silence, and yet coverage faded quickly. Why? So now I want to ask pertaining the media. So the media didn't linger. There were no hashtag or no international outreach, just trauma buried under new fatigue because of the war of Iran and Israel. They just swallowed our own local war, which our own local massacre, which was talking about the Benin, because a social activist went there, which is very dark man. So he was even saying that he could not sleep for 2 days. What do you feel about that, sir? Do you think the media should be projecting those kind of imagery, stuff like that, because they don't have the psychological capacity to actually to bear those kind of pains and all like that? Because a woman that have used 9 months to carry her child, seeing another lifeless body on the ground, what kind of impact psychologically does it generate, sir?
Well, wars generally have psychological impact on everybody, even for those who are fighting the war. Many of them after the war, they have what is called post-traumatic syndromes. You understand me? And many of them, they relieve what they saw in the battlefront, and many of them break down. So these are images that you see where there is where you call theaters of war. In terms of our own, I think it's not something that is just happening. It's a series of coordinated attacks by terrorists and land grabbers. When you see these kind of scenarios, it suggests that it's not only about herders, farmers, clutches. It's about land grabbing and terrorism at its best. And the way to deal with it is to unleash the maximum force on these terrorists. There is no doubt about it. Pacifying terrorists, pacifying them, trying to bring them into mainstream of life and things like that will not work, will not deter. You need a deterrence mechanism that will make sure that these things do not occur, and that is the way out of it.
Well, thank you very much for your contribution, sir. So now we're going to go to another segment, which is the fear and the mind, media and memory and mental health. So right now, I have seen some messages online. So some said when war becomes a daily school, we face what experts call selective exposure. So now, what's selective exposure? We choose fear based on content that confirms our anxiety. Then catharsis, watching pain gives emotion release, but also numbs us. Whereby conservation theory, we're talking about repeated violence coverage reshapes how we view life and safety. Magic bullets, headlines shoot straight into the heart, no filter. Some of them, they don't filter what they put online, and those are parents, those youths of nowadays, whatever they see online, they just post. You see some people whereby they massacre people with blood or probably knife or an object. They just post it. They don't really look at psychological impact they have, and that is the purpose of this show, Echoes of Fear. We talk about the fear you cannot talk about to bring hope and redemption to you. So right now, we're going to be talking about this political trauma, which becomes generational, and fear becomes inherited if we don't address how stories are told and received. We build a scared and passive society. So sir, I would like you to give us a solution on how to fight fear, not each other.
Well, when it comes to fighting fear occasioned by war, I think what should be done is that when people post those images, they should post viewers discretion. You understand me? Viewers discretion, so that people who are going to open it will know that there are violent content in some of the things they post. And as you have rightly alluded, when people see images of wars, the horrors of war, women dying, children dying, people losing their homes and things like that, on a regular basis, sometimes it becomes part of normal life, and people just say, oh, they have come again,
of course,
which is not supposed to be. So all these things we are supposed to guide against and ensure that human beings are human beings. Lives is sacred, and we must do everything to ensure that lives are protected from being wantonly lost through needless wars and wars of attrition.
All right, thank you very much for the contribution. So in addition, I would like to add some few points before I round up the show today on MAPOLY RADIO 99.7 FM. So what can we do as listeners, as media creators, as citizens? So these are my addition. So now filter your media, take breaks from endless scrolls, verify from before sharing, use trusted sources like Reuters, AP, Al Jazeera. Then balance your feed. Don't just follow fear, follow healing. Talk it out. Share your fear with trusted people or professionals. Use faith and creativity, prayers, poetry, and journaling. Then hold forums, dialogue on campus, in mosques, in market store, in churches. Then hold leaders accountable. If we are not safe, we must speak. You understand? So now, demand trauma-aware media shows stories that inform, not just inflame. So I want to ask before we round up this last one. So can journalism itself be healing? Just a short. Can journalism itself be healing?
When you talk about journalism, can journalism be healing? You see, journalists are supposed to report what happens.
Of course.
And in reporting, there is no way you can cover up any of those things. But the truth of the matter is that sometimes when we report, we must also be mindful of how we report. Responsible journalism demands that we all are accountable to whatever. We must not report an issue in a manner that will create more violence, in a manner that will create more disturbance. So we must be responsible in the type of journalism that we do.
Alright, thank you very much, sir. So now, whether it is measles over Tehran or blood on our streets in Benue, we feel it, but we can heal it. So with facts, with compassion, with action, I am Tommyrex, your radio boy, and I believe until next time, stay informed, stay fearless, and stay real, and make sure you tune into Echoes of Fear every Wednesday, 99.7 FM on MAPOLY Radio. Thank you very much for listening. Yo.